Blog Talk Radio.
Fulfill Radio, a voice you can trust. Broadcasting live presents Two Guys and a Bible with Don Preston and William Bell. Join us each week at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central as we bring you exciting, sound, challenging, and comforting messages regarding the end times. Thank you for tuning in today. Don Preston is the founder of Preterist Research Institute, or PRI. Don is a prolific author, having written and published 19 books, a host of audio and DVD studies, and is a debater and defender of the full preterist view. His websites are BibleProphecy.com, Eschatology.org, and DonKPreston.com. William Bell is the founder of AllThingsFulfilled.com Ministries and has a website bearing the same name, and has authored 3 books, audios, and DVDs. He has published hundreds of articles and recordings. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two Guys and a Bible broadcast with Don Preston and William Bell.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So very, very sorry to be so late. When I tried to log on and dial in through Skype, wouldn't you know it, this was one of those nights that Skype had completely logged me out. Then when I tried to log in, well, guess what? It demanded my password. Well, I just typed in what I thought was my password, and it says, this is the incorrect password. So I had to go through the entire process of changing my password again. This gets so frustrating. And, of course, it rejected it twice, even as I was trying to change it. But then I finally got that done. And so then I was since I was signed in on Skype, I thought, well, okay, William's undoubtedly on air. Well, when I dialed in, William was not on air. And so anyway, I backed completely out. I logged on to talkradio.com, had to sign in. William wasn't here, and I just got a text message from him because I sent him a couple of very, very hurried texts saying, "Where are you? Hello, hello." and I just got in. I just got a text from him that said he'd been on the phone with a phone tech for 30 minutes, didn't even realize what it was, what time it was. He said he will call in, but he said my phone is being troubleshot. So he's obviously having trouble. So tonight is the night for technical problems here on Two Guys and a Bible. You know, I knew that I was running a little bit late anyway. And so I even imagined, as I hurriedly ran to the computer to log in, I knew, I said to myself, I'll bet you that it's got me logged out, and I'm going to have to go through the whole process of signing back in. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And again, it would not accept my password. Had to go through that whole process again. And that's some of the most confusing stuff to me. I mean, it certainly appears that Microsoft is trying to take over the world along with Google. And if you change your password over here on this website and on this application, then lo and behold, you got to change it on half a dozen others. It doesn't accept you. So anyway, well, it appears perhaps that William has signed in. William, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Great to have you with us. And I was explaining the trouble that I was having this evening. Skype decided that I had to go through the process of changing my password. it had kicked me off, and it would not allow me to sign in. When I tried to sign in, I had to change the password. It rejected that twice, and so I had to go through the entire rigmarole. And I was venting a little bit of frustration over Microsoft and Google that if you try to get onto this website or this application, you got to change your password. Well, lo and behold, when you change that password, then you try to get in on another application that you've been in 100 times, and it says that's the wrong password. You got to change your password. And it's like, well, I just changed it over here, and you try to use the password that you changed to, and it won't accept it. I don't know. It's extremely frustrating, just very, very frustrating. So, and then you're having evidently phone trouble. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. My voicemail isn't working, so really was trying to get it squared away, and then I ended up taking the call and hadn't even looked at the clock. And then I got your message asking where I was, and I looked at the clock, and it was 6:10. So, I've been sitting here for 30 minutes, and we've just got off the phone, and they have to refer it to a tech department, and we've been working on this for about a week now.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know what happened to my voicemail. I can't access it. So if anybody calls me and it goes to voicemail, I won't be able to return it. So send me a text.
Yeah. Well, anyway, here we are. Hope that perhaps we haven't lost everyone, them wondering where in the world did those two guys go tonight. So hopefully we've still got some folks, and even if, pardon me, even if not for this evening, perhaps on the archive, everything will be there, and they can listen. I do apologize for not being able to be with everyone and be with you last week, William. I tell you, I was sick. I don't know what had happened at all, but as I told you on the phone, my goodness gracious, I just felt like a truck had run all over the top of me and then backed up and did it all over again. I mean, I really, really felt bad. But thankfully, I'm feeling lots better this week. It's really good to feel good. And,
absolutely.
I mean, to tell you. So anyway, like I said, it's very, very good to be back with everyone and to be back here on Two Guys in the Bible and Fulfilled Radio. So, William, what did you discuss last week that perhaps we can pick up on, continue a little bit, and just carry on?
Well, I kind of, went back to Ezekiel 47, 21, and 22 and talked about the inheritance, the foundation basically that you had laid in talking about the inheritance and the land. And from that, I went all the way back to Genesis to talk about the promise that God made relative to the land, that it was a conditional promise that involved, circumcision, which was one of the things you talked about, but also the everlasting possession, and that it was for not only Abraham's seed, but it was for those who were bought, the foreigner that was bought with his money. And, just showing the context of Ezekiel 47, that it was not, the inheritance was not for Israel only, but it included the stranger who was not native born of Israel, even those who were bought, the foreigner that was bought with Abraham's money, were also subject to it, and they would be cut off, not only from Israel, but from the everlasting possession and from the relationship with God. So I basically had 3 points that I, talked about relative to that, and it was the real estate and the relationship, and I think the other one was retention of the land or something like that. But anyway, it was all conditional, so they would lose the relationship, lose the real estate, and lose the everlasting possession if they chose not to be circumcised, or if they refused to be circumcised, and therefore demonstrating that the promise was conditional, the land was not permanent, from that perspective, and that the relationship and whatever the other one was, all of that, that it included more than just those who were the natural seed of Abraham, but those who were bought with his money and outside the promise. And of course, gave some other supporting scriptures for that.
Yes, pardon me. Sounds like a great study, and what you're talking about there, and that is the conditional nature of the land promise meant, obviously, and I'm sure that I'm more than confident that you made the application. If the land promise was conditional, that is, they could not possess the land without obeying the law, then that certainly applied to the temple. Because if the land promise is conditional, then the temple promise was conditional. Yeah. So
and that since you mentioned the temple, one of the things that I pointed out as well was the new covenant and what was required. And I went to Jeremiah 31 and talked about the sowing of Israel with the seed of man and beast, of Judah and Israel with the seed of man and beast in the new covenant, and also the promise of the new covenant, as well as the new city, and therefore the new land, which would include the new temple.
Exactly. Very, very good. Well, we spent a good bit of time developing Ezekiel, and obviously you gave a good bit of that background there to help everyone understand the conditional nature of even those promises there in Ezekiel. And so I really believe that we probably covered the territory in Ezekiel sufficiently. There is another major promise of the Messianic temple that is to be found in the book of Zechariah that I think would be good for us to develop. But in the meantime, William, is it time for you to share about your next trip?
Yeah, well, I actually did. I actually said a little bit about it on last week, but now that it's definitely at hand and imminent, I can say a few more things about it. I am scheduled to leave on Saturday, provided the COVID tests are negative, and hopefully they are. Haven't had any complications with that or concerns with it up to this point. And so we've got all the paperwork and everything involved to go. So I'm going to leave here on Saturday, but the actual flight going out to Africa doesn't leave until Sunday. So I've got to, I had to arrange another flight just to go where I could get a ticket that was reasonable. But at any rate, we leave going to Ethiopia this time instead of through Europe, and then from there to Ghana. And on this trip, of course, I've got two main places that I've been working with. One is in the Volta region, where we are looking at working with 3 communities there, starting a little building project, actually. And then one in Cape Coast. Solomon is already underway with the building project there. And so between those 2 places, and then I'll be, looking at some things in Accra. But I should be there for about a month, and working between those 2. Looks like, hopefully, we'll get some good work done. I've got 2 brothers in the Volta region that we'll be working with, and he does some outstanding work in the community. He also runs a school there, and I think he's got about 400 or 500, students in a school that he runs. But he's also very active in the community. In this community that we're going to be working with, there's no church there, and so we're going to try to build. Of course, it's not going to be built it's not going to be finished while I'm there, but we're going to get it started. And it's a training center that we'll be using to teach the gospel. It'll be a multi-use, little center that we'll use to teach the gospel, but also to train and teach people practical skills so they can employ themselves in the process. And eventually, Solomon and I are talking about maybe one day, getting a school done, and so we can try to start the children off very early with a good foundation and background, so that as we bring them to a point where we are, grow up, they will already have some eschatology inbred into them. But that's kind of the long range plan that we're working on, and I'm excited about it. Really, good to see that something's going to materialize out of it. And so we're undertaking it on faith, but so far, a few things are happening that will allow us to get started, and hopefully we'll get it finished.
Well, as I've said before, to me, what you are doing over there, what you encouraging, what you are aiding in is just ultra exciting to me. I know Jan and I were talking about it the other day. We're both very excited about the work that you're involved in there. As you and I have discussed both privately and on this program, the things that you're involved in there are culture changing. They're literally world changing type of activities that the impact of what you're doing there, Lord willing, will be felt for generations to come. And that type of impact, that type of culture building is just absolutely fantastic from my perspective. And I think anyone who has has a concern for the everyday lives of people and manifesting, manifesting the very practicality of the gospel of Christ and how it does impact our everyday lives, of how it can change the very culture of how we live, how we interact with people, how we deal with one another in life, how it can affect our own society. That society may be a village at a time. It may be a town, a city. It may be nothing more than a family. But the fact that the gospel can so dramatically impact the lives of people, and the things that you're doing there and teaching people life skills of how to support themselves, how to, in the case of the women that you help buy the sewing machines for, so that they can produce garments to sell, to support themselves and their families. I mean, that's just absolutely amazing kind of activity. And so you are to be commended for that, most assuredly. And I'm assuming, is Leora going with you again this trip?
Not on this particular trip.
Oh, okay.
We have another one scheduled for next year, but we're going to go to some different places, but not on this particular one. Okay,
well, be that as it may, the things that you're involved in there, as I have said many times, are just, it's some of the most exciting stuff that I could possibly imagine. I know it's got to be super exciting to you, as you just expressed. It's got to be gratifying to see the fruit of your labor begin to take place, no matter how large, the impact may be at this specific given time, for you to be able to see, to dream what it might be in the days to come. It's really, really incredible.
Well, yes. I mean, it's just the idea of being able to do something like this on it's just almost just overwhelming to me to experience it. And yet the opportunity is there. And, I said, hey, we either do something or not. And speaking of that, I mean, even the work that's being done in India has been we've been having a real good effect. But by the way, the gentleman who runs the school in India, Brother Kanak, he and all his family have come down with COVID. And so, there's been an uptick in a surge in COVID cases in India due to lack of resources and medical facilities and et cetera. But I haven't heard from him maybe but once, and that was after, we sent something over, and Brother Dale sent something over to help them to purchase medicines, et cetera. But I want to ask for prayers for them, particularly because of that. And what has been interesting with Brother Hannock is, we have these Zoom meetings with him where he brings in a group of people where we teach a class just about every month, maybe twice a month, but I think it's about once a month. And out of every class, there are about, a minimum of 3 usually, but as many as 7 or more baptisms just from the classes that he's doing. So
wow,
he's been doing a great job. And then we have the other brother in Nigeria, James. They just got some clean water in their community. Now, he runs a school of 1,300 students.
Oh, my.
And their concern has been the persecutions that they're having in Nigeria now. And so he's very much concerned about that. But, one of his needs was, they've finally got the water in. I think one organization helped them to get a well or something dug so that they could get some clean water. And now they're trying to replace the pump for that. But nevertheless, it's interesting to see such great need, but at the same time, to see how much can be done with reasonably little by comparison to what it would take to do something here on that scale. And so it's just a matter of leveraging, what little you have to make it go further in a place where the need is so great.
Well, that's exactly right. And, you mentioned persecution. I'll tell a quick story here, and then we'll move on, perhaps. I was actually due to go to Nigeria in 1979, and all the arrangements had been made. All of the financing had been raised. Everything was in place. And my contact over there, and of course that was way before internet. This was in the days of telegraph, literally. And it was one of those type of things where correspondence was obviously pretty slow as a result of that. But my contact over there was a fellow by the name of Peter Oriaku. I'll never forget this. He was a man that came extremely highly recommended. He had worked with several U.S. missionaries down through time, was extremely highly respected, highly trusted. I even traveled to Searcy, Arkansas, and spent some time with a man over there, a minister who had been a missionary in Nigeria, who had worked with Peter Oriaku, and just spoke super, super highly of him. He said, he is literally a man that you can trust with your life. He is that good. He's that reliable. And I knew that they had started to have some unrest in Nigeria. And again, this is 1979. And so we kept proceeding. We kept making the plans. And all of a sudden, and Peter Oriaku had told me via telegram that things were getting pretty dicey. And he spoke of the difference between northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria. And he said we would probably spend our time in southern Nigeria because everyone there was, by and large, very open-minded. There was not a large Muslim population. They were there, but they were very tolerant, very open-minded. But he said, we probably won't go to northern Nigeria because there, if they get angry at you, they'll just kill you on the spot. And I said, well, yeah, okay. Let's go to southern Nigeria. And anyway, I kept noticing also that there was a lot of political upheaval in Nigeria, in the area around where Brother Oriaku was. And it came down within a month of time for us to leave, and all of a sudden he stopped answering my telegrams. And I mean, it was like 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, got down to that point. And I finally sent him a telegram, an urgent telegram, and I said, "Brother, look, I can't come unless I receive absolute final preparation or confirmation from you that everything is okay," because I kept reading and hearing about the political turmoil and about people disappearing in the middle of the night. And so again, I sent that telegram. I never heard a word from him. I have asked different missionaries who have been to Nigeria many times. Peter Oriaku had literally disappeared in the middle of the night and has never been heard from again. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's just so frightening. It's so disturbing to think about living in an area in which something like that can happen to you. But it seemingly, now I've never talked to anybody who said, "Oh yeah, we know what happened to Peter Oriaku. He disappeared in the middle of the night. He's in a Nigerian prison somewhere." I literally don't know, but I do know that he completely disappeared, and no one that I have ever spoken to again has ever heard of him since then. So it's a very, very frightening thing. And so when you mentioned some of the persecution that was mentioned to you by some folks there in Nigeria, it reminded me of that situation and how frightening it is in some areas to realize that Christians are the brunt, receive the brunt of persecution, and especially in regions where the Muslims are very, very dominant and predominant in regard to the population.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much the same situation, and I believe that some of the problems that they're experiencing is coming from the north, and that's what I've heard, even as I've kind of tracked the news a little bit regarding them. So because of that, I haven't been very motivated to make that trip to Nigeria, even though I've been invited to come. And not only there, but to several different places. People are hearing about, the work that we're doing, but those are not, I would say, as solid or stable as, what Solomon has going on. He's a pretty solid brother, and is very active and very supportive as well. So from that point of view, he's just a good person to have, with you when you're trying to navigate some place that you don't know. So he takes care of me, and I'm really grateful to him for that. And the other brothers just the same. So they're just good, and I feel at least very safe hanging out with them.
Well, that's great, and it's good to have good, reliable people. Nothing can take the place of local men who know the culture. They know all the ins and outs. They know where to go. They know where to stay away from, and what have you. So, about all I can say is that we wish you Godspeed on your trip. We wish you the very best of success as you go there to not only preach the gospel of Christ, but to also help the people that are there to build their culture and improve their lives for the long term. So, again, best of luck to you and Godspeed to you in that regard.
Well, thanks very much. I appreciate all the prayers.
Well, we could take up more time. I tell you, it's been very, very exciting to receive so many different correspondences this week in regard to the videos, the Now TV. What's really interesting is that, we post my Now TV videos on YouTube, and just over the last few weeks, I have noticed that my viewership of my Now TV program has started jumping up and increasing and increasing and increasing. Now, I'm certainly not going to say that it's going viral by any stretch of the imagination, But it is increasing. And we are very, very pleased about that. We've actually started receiving correspondence as a result of that. We've started getting a few book orders as a result of the Now TV videos. And these are people that are not watching my regular Monday through Thursday videos. And so that's kind of interesting to me. But nonetheless, we're extremely thankful for that as the outreach continues to grow, as more and more people become aware of the message that we are sharing, and the movement just continues to grow. All the while, the detractors just get more vituperative, to use the word. They get more vicious in their attacks. And, of course, as I pointed out to one today, who just launched into a verbal attack on me, calling me names, that it's been my experience down through the years that when a man simply cannot answer your arguments, and he knows he can't answer, then he decides to get ugly and to call names. And that's exactly what this individual did today. And so, I literally had to laugh at this guy. I mean, I literally had to laugh at the illogical form of arguments that he was making, all the while admitting that what I am saying and what you and I have been teaching about the timing of fulfillment is accurate. What we're saying about the nature of fulfillment is wrong. And he's made this admission several different times. And I've pointed out, you can't admit that we're right in regard to when things were going to happen and deny that we are teaching the truth in regard to the nature of it. I said, it just doesn't work. That's not how logic works. So, and so when I point that out, he normally comes back by calling me a bunch of names. I'm a liar. I'm a false teacher. I'm a heretic. And he told me today my time was up. And I wrote back and I said, well, would you care to explain what you mean by my time is up? I said, now I admit I'm starting to get on up there in years. So yeah, in regard to my lifespan, my time, I don't have a whole lot of time left. At least I assume that I don't. But I said, are you suggesting that my time is up somehow else? Well, I'm not threatening you. Huh. Well, it sure sounded that way to me. So anyway, he just really, really embarrassed himself with the things that he was saying. It really honestly was awful. So anyway, anything else that you would like to share with us this evening here, William? My goodness, we've only got just a few moments left on tonight's program. Well,
I've been doing a series on 1 Corinthians 15 on the radio broadcast, and lo and behold, after I think I've done about 14 episodes at this point since I started the series, and I'm still on the introduction. Now they're making some changes at the station because I'm the only live broadcaster on Sundays. And so I think what they want to do is close down their live broadcasting and want me to send in a recording. Of course, one of the features of that was the interaction that you have, both locally and on Facebook. So, I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to, continue with that program. If I have to, record it at home, I might as well just send it straight to Facebook and not worry about it.
Sure.
But that's kind of where I am now on that particular one. I thought it would be a good outreach for the local audience. Even though we haven't had a lot of responses from them, I do get word from others who are in, various churches that, people are listening and they're talking about it. And, I don't know whether they're having discussions about it, but they're definitely talking about it. So I was content that as long as somebody was out there listening, that, some good was being done. And, of course, we get the feedback from, people who are on Facebook and others, and of course I've begun putting those videos after I edit them down a little bit from all of the preliminaries, et cetera. I edit them down, and then I put those on YouTube. And so those have been, kind of like what you were saying about your Now Network broadcast. There's been a little bit of uptick in terms of the number of subscribers that we have. And of course, we're grateful for all of them. I don't publish as many videos as you are, because you're doing yours on a daily basis. So I haven't done that. I used to do that, but I haven't done it lately. And so we've just been content to put those up, especially because of the effort that, goes into trying to put those studies together. So, just about the time that I was about to settle in and say, okay, let's go ahead and rock through 1 Corinthians 15, we get this change. And so I'm trying to decide on how to deal with that or what I'm going to do in lieu of it. And so, either way, we'll continue to study and we'll continue to teach. But the responses to it have been good, and it's creating a little bit of activity there. So, I haven't gotten a lot of feedback from the Now Network, but other than I hear from people on Facebook regarding it, because a lot of it has to do with the new outreach that they have. And so that is pretty good. But, with that, with all of these efforts going on, I think it's great. And it's good to hear what's happening with you and the increased subscribers and correspondence that you're getting. So congratulations on that. I'm really happy to hear it. That was one of the reasons why, when I decided to do it, I said, well, we got to get done on here too, and that is definitely making an impact. So, a lot more people are being exposed. They're learning, and I think it's really, really great. So, it just continues to show how there's an audience out there for it, and people are looking for some answers. They're looking for some solid answers, and they're being delivered, through the messages that, we're sharing.
Well, exactly right. And speaking of Now TV, as you well know, Now TV just recently enlarged their potential viewing audience by almost triple. I mean, the amount of potential homes that they have recently opened up to viewership has just been really, really staggering. Now, unfortunately, I haven't had the money to be able to broaden my own personal exposure to that. I am thrilled to take note that I've been contacted by one individual about the possibility of supporting and enlarging a personal show. And so I don't know what's going to become of that. They simply inquired about it recently. It would be exciting to be able to have my show full exposure of Now TV, because that would be, well, what are they up to now, William? 300 million homes possible? Something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's staggering about the potential homes. Now, obviously, you're not going to be watched by 300 million homes. We know that. That's just not the way that it works. But the more homes that you have the potential exposure to, then the more the possibility of more and more people tuning in. And so I'm very hopeful that we can raise the funds to be able to enlarge our own footprint, so to speak, and to just open more and more doors. As I mentioned, it seemed like just over the last 2 or 3 weeks, the viewership of my Now TV has gone up an additional couple of hundred views per week. And that is very, very exciting. And again, I understand that's not viral. I understand that's not, 1 million views. I understand that. But it's kind of like Zachariah said, or was told in Zechariah chapter 2 and verse 10, despise the day of small beginnings. And so the fact that our viewership is growing and the response to our program is growing and improving even, with the increase in the positive you get an increase in the negative comments. So it's just kind of and all of a sudden, like they've never heard the facts against or question about what might be. The line is, with exposure, you get more comments, and that's just the way it is. And so we welcome that.
Well, I just wanted to say one other thing about the increase. You mentioned that it's not viral, and it's probably not as great an increase that maybe we'd like to see, or that others would expect to say, well, okay, now you're doing something. They're never going to, not anytime soon, give you that kind of credit as much as they want to see this not succeed.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing you have to think about is, because of the nature of the information that we're sharing and the amount of real study that it requires. I mean, this is not a news flash type program where somebody gets on there and talks about, a prophecy that's about to be fulfilled, and, kind of hypes people a little bit, and, they go off and thinking, okay, well, that's what the Bible says. We're inviting people and encouraging them to really dig in and study. And I know from your experience and from mine, a lot of these seeds that are being planted do not come up right away. Some of these people are looking at this over a year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 or 4 years before they really answer all the questions that they feel are necessary for them to make a stand. I mean, let's take one brother that both you and I know. The debate that happened in Montgomery back in 1993 between Jack Scott and Stephen Wiggins. Well, we had a brother sitting in the audience who challenged us while we were there, went to breakfast with us, I think, or lunch or something, and still had issues. And then after a few conversations with him, opposing the things that we said, considering, calling us heretics, we didn't hear from him for quite a while. All of a sudden, let's see, when was it? About 10 years later?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. When was that, 2014 or something, when we heard from him?
William, it was probably, let's see, it might have been 2016.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure when that was, but I know he said that he was on a 10-year journey before he decided that what we were saying was true, and then it took him a few years before he ever contacted us. And then out of the blue, you get this phone call, and he says, I bet you don't know who this is, or something like that. And, remember the name Holger Neubauer, and you say, oh, yeah, with a name like Holger Neubauer, who can forget?
Yes.
But when you think about it, look at how much of an impact Holger has made. But look at the time that it took for him, and I'm talking about a well-studied Holger, is well-educated. He's very sharp in the scripture, and he was on a 10-year trek, just convincing himself, and then following that, taking the time to reach out to us, and then from there, stepping up fully to the plate, not only to teach, but also to debate as well, and he's had several of them and done a fantastic job. But that's the kind of fruit that's being born. So, we shouldn't take it lightly that it's a slower process, but the quality of what comes out of it is what is so fantastic and amazing. And, a lot of the wayside hearers are just going to be that. They're going to be that. But those who are, really solid, they're going to take the time that it takes to investigate, to study, to go back and check and recheck until they just can't find any more holes, or what they think are holes. And then they finally give in and say, okay, I'm here. And then they go for it.
Well, what you're sharing there in the story of Hoger is just one of many, as you indicated, and it's absolutely true. I tell people all the time, it's not our responsibility to reap the harvest. Our responsibility is to sow the seed. The Lord made the promise all the way back in the days of Isaiah chapter 55. My word will not return to me void. It will accomplish that to which I send it. And that type of confidence that we can have, that when we make the truth available, I mean, both of us would admit we'd love to be able to sit down with somebody in an hour's time and to completely convince them of covenant eschatology. But we both know that that's almost a naive view, that seldom ever happens. And it only happens, I would even venture to say, in the cases of individuals who have been struggling with the issues already in their life. They already had all sorts of questions. And what we have done in that hypothetical 1-hour session is we've answered a few of those final questions for them. And it's not like we started out around base zero and took them to a full preterist in 1 hour. It's not like that. And I think the point that you've made there is that we are not involved in a superficial study of Scripture. We are involved in trying to get people to look deeply at the Scriptures, to be willing to study, to genuinely study, to invest the time. And it takes time, as you and I absolutely know. You've got to dedicate yourself to spending the time for deep study. And we live in an age, we live in a world in which people are so oriented toward entertainment. And I say this all the time, far too many people want their eschatology in 25 words. They want it in they want a thimble of eschatology to explain all the thorny issues that the church has struggled with for 2,000 years. And I in a meeting one time, I was actually the brunt of an inquisition in front of a group of elders, not elders from another congregation. They allowed me to speak, and I spoke for about an hour. And one of the elders there just spoke up, and he said, "Well, that's way too complicated for me to understand. I'm not interested in hearing anything more." And far too many people are exactly like that. And that is not the proper approach to Scripture. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, we've given you, lots of different bits of information and news this evening. Want to express our appreciation to you for being with us here on Two Guys in the Bible on Fulfilled Radio, a voice you can trust. William, once again, we wish you the very best, and Godspeed to you, and God bless. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back, Lord willing, next week. And William will be back in approximately a month. With that, I'm going to say good night, and God bless.
Thank you for joining the Two Guys in a Bible radio broadcast. On behalf of Dunn Preston and myself, we'd like to say have a very pleasant day, and may God bless. Until next time, we'll see you on Fulfill Radio, a voice you can trust.